He hadn't planned for life to end this way. Arman Farouk was 32, but he felt centuries old. His body was alive, yet his spirit had collapsed long before. Life had drained him slowly, like a leaking bucket that never filled. No matter how much water he poured inside. For years he had fought battles that no one saw. People around him only saw the polite smiles, the quiet nods, the "I'm fine," that he had mastered like an actor rehearsing a role. But inside his chest, something had been breaking for a long, long time. Not with loud cracks, no, with soft, silent fractures. The kind that hurt the most because no one hears them. His life once had dreams, beautiful dreams. He wanted to build something meaningful, help his family, become someone he could be proud of. But one failure after another chipped away at him, jobs slipping through his fingers, opportunities ending before they started, relationships fading, friendships turning into distant memories. And then came the betrayal. Someone he trusted, someone he thought would always stand by him, walked away at the moment he needed them most. Their absence wasn't loud. It was quiet, cold, and final. Like a door that shuts without a sound but changes everything. That night, after receiving yet another rejection email, Arman reached his limit. He sat alone in his small apartment, the walls closing in on him like shadows swallowing light. The silence was so deep that it felt like a weight pressing on his chest. The city outside was alive. Cars honking, people rushing, the distant hum of life. But none of it reached him. He stared at the empty coffee cup on his table. It held nothing. Just like he felt, he whispered into the darkness, "What's the point anymore?" And no one answered. No one ever did. Hours passed, he didn't move. His phone buzzed with messages he didn't open. His heart thudded slowly, painfully, as if even it was tired of beating for a life that didn't seem to want him. And then he made the decision, a quiet one, a soft one, a dangerous one. He stepped outside into the cold night. The air bit his skin, the streets were almost empty, and a thin fog curled around the streetlights like ghosts drifting silently. He walked without thinking, without direction, without hope. Every step felt like letting go. He reached the old bridge at the edge of the city, a forgotten place where rust touched the metal, and the river below looked like a long stretch of darkness. He stood there, hands gripping the cold railing, eyes staring into the deep black water. His thoughts were heavy, swirling, merciless. No one will care. No one will even notice. I'm tired, I'm so tired. He closed his eyes. The world felt far away. And just when he leaned forward, a voice behind him broke the silence. A calm voice, a steady voice. A strange voice, a hard night. Arman froze. He turned his head slightly. An old man stood a few steps away. Not close enough to invade, not far enough to be indifferent. His clothes were simple. A dark coat, worn shoes, a soft scarf around his neck. His face was lined with years, but his eyes were warm. Too warm for a cold night like this. Arman didn't answer. The old man walked closer, very slowly, until he stood beside him, not staring at him, not judging him, just watching the river. "I come here sometimes," the old man said, "when life feels too heavy." Arman swallowed hard. His voice cracked when he managed to speak. You don't know anything about my life." The old man chuckled softly. "You'd be surprised." Silence settled between them again. Not the suffocating kind, this one felt gentle. After a long moment, the stranger spoke again. "If you jump, the river won't take your pain. It will only take you." Arman's fingers tightened around the railing. His throat burned. He didn't want to cry in front of a stranger, but his eyes stung anyway. "I'm tired," he whispered. "Nothing works. Nothing ever gets better." The stranger nodded as if he understood every word without needing explanation. "I once thought the same," he said. "I stood right where you're standing many years ago." Arman looked at him sharply. "You tried?" The man nodded slowly. "But someone stopped me," he said. "Someone who told me something that changed everything." The old man turned to him, not with pity, but with a kind of quiet strength. "And now I'm here," he added softly, to pass those words to you." Armin's voice trembled. What did they say?" The old man took a deep breath. Then he spoke the sentence that would change Armin's life forever. "Your story is not ending. You're just in the part that will one day inspire someone else to keep going." Armin's breath caught. Something tightened in his chest. Something fragile cracked open inside him. The old man continued, "Pain doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're being shaped. Nothing in your life is wasted, not even the nights that break you." Armin's vision blurred with tears he could no longer hold back. "No one needs me," he whispered. The stranger shook his head gently. "You're wrong. Someone out there is praying for a person exactly like you, and they don't even know your name yet." Armin felt something shift, something small but real. A spark in the ashes. The stranger placed a firm hand on the railing near his. "You came here tonight because you thought you were alone. But look, life sent someone, not to save you, but to remind you." "Remind me of what?" Armin asked, his voice barely audible. The old man smiled, a soft, sorrowful smile full of years and wisdom. "That you're not done yet." Armin's knees trembled. His grip loosened from the railing. He stepped back. The fog around them lifted slightly, as if the night itself exhaled. For the first time in months, Armin really breathed. Not sharply, not painfully, but like a man coming up for air after drowning underwater for far too long. The old man nodded, satisfied. "Come," he said gently. "Let's walk. The night is cold, but your story isn't over." And Armin followed. Not because he was suddenly healed, not because all his pain disappeared, but because one stranger reminded him of something he had forgotten. Hope can return in the most unexpected moment, and sometimes all it takes is one human voice to bring someone back from the edge. The two of them walked slowly away from the bridge, their footsteps echoing softly on the empty road. Armin kept glancing at the old man beside him, trying to understand why a stranger had appeared at the exact moment he was ready to disappear. The night was cold, but for some reason, the air didn't feel as suffocating anymore. The fog had thinned, the streetlights flickered gently, and something inside Armin felt slightly, just slightly, lighter. They walked until they reached a small bench near a closed flower shop. The old man sat down with a soft sigh, then gestured for Armin to sit beside him. Armin hesitated, then sat. His hands trembled, his throat was tight. But for the first time in a long time, he wanted to talk. The old man didn't rush him. He simply waited. Finally, Armin spoke. "I don't understand why you stopped me," he said quietly. "Why you even bothered." The stranger folded his hands, staring forward. "Because I've seen too many people standing where you stood," he replied. "People who thought their story was over when it was only turning a page." Armin let out a hollow laugh. "My story feels like a book that never gets better." The old man smiled softly. "That's because you're reading the painful chapter. You forgot there are more pages ahead." Armin leaned back, exhausted. "Everything I tried failed. Everything I dreamed of collapsed. And yet," the old man said gently, "you're still here." Armin looked down at his hands. They were shaking, barely. He whispered. The old man tilted his head thoughtfully. "Let me tell you something someone once told me the night I stood on that same bridge." Armin lifted his eyes. The old man continued, voice low and steady. "Sometimes life brings you to your knees not to break you, but to force you to rise in a way you never have before." Armin swallowed, feeling his chest tighten again. "That sounds nice," he muttered, "but real life isn't poetry. Real life is bills, rejections, heartbreaks, loneliness." "Of course it is," the stranger said calmly, "but real life is also unexpected kindness, new beginnings, quiet miracles." "Not in my life," Armin said. "Nothing has worked, not for years." The old man nodded. "So tell me," he said softly, "what exactly hurt you the most?" Armin didn't want to answer. The words felt heavy, stuck in his throat, but something about the old man's presence made it safe enough to finally say the truth he had buried for so long. "I lost everything, Armin whispered, job, love, my self-respect. People who said they cared disappeared. I gave and gave until I had nothing left. He paused, voice cracking. And when I needed someone, there was no one. The old man listened without interrupting. His silence was the kind of silence that heals rather than suffocates. I'm tired, Armin continued, wiping his eyes. Tired of starting over. Tired of pretending I'm okay. Tired of being strong when I don't want to be strong anymore. The stranger touched his arm gently. You were never meant to carry everything alone, he said. You broke not because you were weak, but because you were strong for too long. Armin's eyes stung. And then what? He whispered. I keep going. For what? Life doesn't change just because you want it to. The old man nodded again, then asked a simple question. Would you believe me if I told you that you are closer to your breakthrough than you think? Armin blinked. No, he said honestly, I wouldn't. The stranger smiled. Good, because belief is not required, only willingness. Willingness for what? To keep walking, to keep breathing, to give life one more chance. He paused, and to let someone else help you for once. Armin looked away. I'm not good at needing help, nobody is, the old man said with a soft laugh, especially those who have had to survive on their own for too long. They sat in silence for a while, the city humming faintly in the distance. Then the old man turned to him again with eyes full of something deep. Wisdom, grief, hope, all mixed together. Armin, he said quietly, do you know what people forget most often? What? That the night always looks darkest right before it turns into morning. Armin's breath caught. The old man continued, you think this is the end of your story, but it isn't. It's the turning point, the part that will one day make sense, the part that will become the chapter you're most proud of surviving. Armin swallowed hard. It doesn't feel that way. Of course not, the old man said gently. You're in the middle of the storm, but storms don't stay forever. Another tear slid down Armin's cheek. He wiped it quickly, embarrassed. The old man shook his head softly. Don't hide your tears, he said. They're proof that you're still fighting. Armin closed his eyes, letting out a shaky breath. What if I can't start over? He asked. The old man answered instantly. Then don't start over, start from here. Start with who you are right now, not who you used to be. Armin stared at him. Something inside him, something numb and frozen, began to thaw. The old man continued, voice gentle but firm, and listen to me carefully, you are not behind in life. You are not late, you are not failing, you are simply rebuilding. The words hit him like a wave. For years, Armin had compared himself to others, friends who succeeded, relatives who moved ahead, people online who seemed to have perfect lives. Every comparison had broken him a little more. The old man saw the emotion on his face and nodded knowingly. Comparison is poison, he said. Everyone's clock ticks differently. Yours is just delayed, not denied. Armin felt tears returning, and this time he didn't fight them. Why are you helping me? He asked quietly. You don't know me. The stranger looked at him with eyes filled with warmth. Because someone once helped me, he said, and they told me something I can never forget. What did they tell you? The old man leaned forward slightly. The life you think is ending is actually the life that's about to begin. Armin felt something inside him shift, like a door cracking open after years of being locked. The old man placed a hand on his shoulder. You don't have to fix your whole life tonight, he said. Just promise me one thing. What? Promise me you will stay for one more sunrise, one more day, one more chance. Armin looked at the stranger, this man who appeared out of nowhere, who spoke as if he could see into his soul, who stopped him from ending everything. In that moment, Armin didn't feel cured. He didn't feel strong. He didn't suddenly know the answers. But he did feel something he hadn't felt in a long, long time. A tiny seed of hope, small but alive. He nodded slowly. Okay, Armin whispered, one more day. The old man smiled, a full, warm smile that reached his eyes. That's all life needs, he said, one day at a time. They stood up together. The night didn't look so dark anymore. The air didn't feel so heavy, and somewhere deep inside, Armin felt the faintest spark of purpose. As they walked back toward the city, the old man spoke one last time. "Armand, remember this." Armand turned to him. The stranger said, "One day you'll help someone the same way I helped you tonight. And you'll realize that surviving your darkest night was never a tragedy. It was your training." Armand felt tears rise again, but this time they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of awakening. He nodded, and with that, the stranger turned the corner and disappeared into the fog. Armand stood there, breath steady, heart trembling alive. And slowly, very slowly, he whispered the words that had brought him back. "My story isn't over.